Having started collecting when he was 10 years old, today he's become one of the most passionate and beloved collectors in the YouTube community, using his powers for a purpose: to foster friendships, support and grow the comic book community, but mostly to share his passion of the medium with friends, old and new. Depending on whom you ask, he's a father, son, dad, collector, teacher, brother, or best friend. He's John's Comics with Kids, and he's on tonight and every night on JLA versus Avengers. Welcome to the inaugural episode uno of JLA versus Avengers. I'm Ryan Magic Lassos.
It's not Avengers versus Justice. Okay, I keep getting it wrong.
I think you need to look at the title on this string. You can call it whatever you want to call it when it's on the Comics with Kids channel.
Don't mess with the host.
Yes. Welcome to our inaugural episode tonight. I'm Ryan Magic Lasso, and I'm joined with John's Comics with Kids. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. I've been looking forward to this for so long.
This has been a while coming. And
it really has.
We have been planning some different streams. Last week on your channel, we did a kind of a preview episode of kind of what our guidelines are, but they're loosely kind of based guidelines because the show, as we realize, will end up having a life of its own. And we're kind of excited to see what form that might take place from our original intention. And that's all because of you who's joining us tonight. So first of all, thank you for joining us. In a minute, we'll look at the roll call on who's in the live chat with us. But if you're watching on the rewind, thank you for choosing this, and we hope that you enjoy your time with us tonight. As we come out with one winner, we have two iconic teams. We have the Justice League of America and the Avengers. I mean, they are the top teams for the top two companies. But one tonight will be our winner. With your help, we'll determine who that is. John, before we even have to start our show tonight or do anything, I saw something that I thought was such a good omen that I just wanted to share tonight. Okay.
Sure.
So I have a Marvel daily calendar. So each day you rip the page off, and there's either a different comic book cover or there's a different hero that's saluted for that day.
Okay.
And I never peek ahead because I like to rip and be surprised. You know, one day it's a cover, the next day it's no cover, but it's just a hero being saluted.
Sure.
And look at who is saluted on my Marvel calendar for today. That would be the Wasp.
Oh.
So I thought, how appropriate, how iconic, how excellent to see that featured tonight for our premiere episode. It just was a good sign to me.
Iconic Avengers female, obviously the one
The
founding
lead female. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll start out by looking at our roll call. Joining us in the live chat tonight, of course, we'll add to this as more people decide to stop by and check out our show. Our host, John's Comics with Kids, is in the channel. Our first non-host in the channel is JP Budget Collecting. He doesn't have everything correct, but it's still appreciated that he wanted to join us tonight. He did add a little commentary to our intro tonight.
It's fair. That's why you didn't ask JP before you wrote that.
I did not outsource JP to write tonight's script for the intro.
Smart.
Although some people would say they are used to comedy in the beginning of my channel. Meow to the Jackson Roy Kirk. Is he playing favorites already?
I mean...
One thing to say is you and I are not going to be playing favorites. So This is not John's Comics with Kids versus Magic Lasso. Because you're going to hear me talk about how Avengers got something right over the Justice League in the course of this series. And you'll be doing the same thing.
Absolutely. In fact, tonight you might be shocked at some of the takes I got going here.
Yeah. We have John Big Daddy Ross. Awesome to have you here.
Absolutely.
He was probably like me last night, a little bit lost, going, where's my Tuesday night show? Where's my Tuesday night show?
We got you now.
Yeah, that's true. White Tiger, cool, calm, collected. Ruben Guzman. Thank you, sir, for stopping by to see us. So that's our roll call so far. As more get added to it, of course, we'll be sharing that.
And I want to thank everybody because that show we did last Wednesday was a ton of fun. We had a lot of great friends in that chat, and it was a really good feeling for you and I. We've been planning this for so long, talking about these books to kind of like present what we're going to do was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it certainly was. So that's awesome.
Sorry, I got a little tickle in my throat.
No worries. Every book begins with the cover.
Yes.
And
so that's our first discussion topic here tonight. Is we're going to look at the covers for each book and try to decide which book has the better cover. Avengers 1, JLA 1. All right, sorry, we'll do that in the other order.
Strike that, reverse it.
Do you want me to share the Omni, or do you want to share your issue?
Well, first I'll just say that an authentic. The facsimile for this is coming, but it isn't out yet. And that is July 31st that DC will be releasing a facsimile of Justice League of America Volume 1, Issue 1. It's been reprinted a few times, not nearly as many times as their first appearance in Brave and the Bold. Issue 28 has been reprinted. It's around a dozen times that story has been included in different issues or different mediums. But an authentic copy.
It is. Yeah. And how long have you had that one in your collection?
This one, first of all, was a book I never thought I would own. Honestly,
it's a big
never thought I would own, because while it's a lower grade book, and it does have a little bit of issues like right up in this area, it still commands a high price. I was telling you last week I saw a coverless version of this comic book for $200, just coverless. Yeah. And I added this into my collection about 2 years ago, I think. And it was, if not still, the most money I've ever paid for a single comic book. But I've had zero regrets on doing so.
Nice.
So that definitely was the right decision to make.
All right, well, let's talk about this one, because I will say I'm still not a fan of this cover.
Why?
I just think it's such a flat, you think about the Justice League and all their amazing abilities and all the things they can do, and to have them sitting at a table playing chess against a weird fish man, it's a weird choice for the inaugural issue of this series.
However, it's not the team's first appearance.
No, so and that's a great point.
If this would have been the Despero cover, which was their first appearance, would that have changed your mind? I mean,
absolutely.
It's not, and that's not what we have to, work with tonight. Yeah. But that would have changed your mind.
Yeah, the Despero cover is one of my faves. That's a great cover, which
Ruben
is issue 28.
Point. Yeah, Ruben makes a good point. It looks like a panel, not a cover.
And it's true to the interior of the story, and we talk about this on other shows, but like the idea that you are accurately representing what's in the book, this scene does happen in the comic.
And for those who are wondering, we're at 1960 with this issue. So,
what are your thoughts on this cover, and how does it work for you?
I love it. I do. I really love it, because it looks so different than any other comic book. Outside of comic books that have homaged this cover, and there's been a few of them that have, I can't think of anything else that it's just so out of place. I think the fact that it's not, it's not a first appearance for them. You're right. If this would have been a first appearance, it's probably not the cover for a first appearance, but it's not. It's a fourth appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you think of their second and third appearances also in the Brave and the Bold title, those were action covers.
Yeah.
For the most part. 30 kind of had them held up in a cell with a mazo, absorbing their powers, but still it was a little bit more action oriented than, why are they sitting down? With a very odd shaped, is his head that color because they don't use that color very much in the palette?
Right.
And they're like, oh, we need to use this color a little bit more,
you can see them all being like, oh, great. My life depends on Flash's ability to play chess. This is bad.
That's true. Roll call now includes a male 65-65. No Batman or Superman on the cover, correct. And you won't see them on several of the covers, or if you do, you won't. They're not very prominent in the beginning or prominent in the stories.
It doesn't mean they're not in the books, but they're not on the cover.
Do you know what is missing on this cover? There's something missing on this cover.
The issue number.
Yes, correct.
I didn't notice that till now.
Nowhere on the cover is issue 1 stated. You have to go to the indicia on the first page to actually see that this is issue 1, but nowhere on there.
I didn't notice that. Good call.
Yeah.
I mean, he certainly can play faster, but the chess is not a speed game, so I don't know. So for me, obviously the colors are strong. The concept is accurate to the interior of the book. I just find this to be very boring and flat. It doesn't have enough energy for me to, and it's honestly the meanest thing I can say about the issue, because this is my first time reading this book, and as much as I enjoyed it, I kept looking back at this cover feeling like there's so many different ways they could have gone. And
what do you think the cover should have been that would have been accurate to the
I would have said the book centers a lot on chapters involving heroes being sent across to far different reaches of dimensions and battling some very unusual creatures. I would have used something akin to that versus this, which is really just 2 pages in the comic itself. True. Considering how vast the story is and how far reaching it is, it's an odd moment for the cover for me.
Okay. As we'll talk about when we get into the story portion, this is kind of the prequel to what sets them up into getting sent into the different dimensions. For me, it's so different, and it just defines the Silver Age to me so much because it's odd.
Fair.
But it's colorful.
It is.
And one thing that you'll notice with me, and I've said this on my channel, I can be heavily attracted to very colorful covers.
Sure. I get it.
So.
And this is the first time they've used that logo as well, right? So this is the first appearance of that cool classic logo.
Which lasts for a very long time.
It does indeed.
Yeah.
All right. You ready for the other cover?
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your Avengers #1. I have an Avengers #1, but unfortunately mine's a facsimile. This is the real deal.
It's the real deal. It's had some repair work to the staples, so it's a purple label, although it doesn't look too purple.
It looks very blue.
It looks very blue on my camera. I will say, so I got this thanks to Steve Whiting, the insane AOK giver. I got this just a year ago. Yeah, he's wild, and he did it again at Heroes.
What did you think when he handed that to you? I remember there was a little cursing going on.
There was, there's a video on his, I think it's on his Instagram, and I definitely curse more than I normally do. I was not expecting it. It was like the last day of the con. We were just all hanging out, and then I started noticing it got a bit crowded around me, and then Steve was digging in his backpack, and I was like, okay, something bad is about to happen right now. And the dude had already given me an issue 2 a year prior, a few years prior, and I was like, no, where could this possibly go? And yeah, this was just buck wild. So what I love about this cover is it's got a great energy. It's got all the front facing heroes. It's in Silver Age classic style, so many word balloons, so many talking phrases covering the top half. The bottom half is very clean, and you get a lot of the characters as the focus. I kind of like the silhouette of Loki on the side here so that we know who he is by the shape of it. And of course, the words that are written around: defeating the sinister spells of Loki, god of evil. And so I like the layout of this. It's a bit boxy up here at the top, but it works for me. And yeah, that's how I feel about this cover.
Now joining the roll call is Hialeah Comic Bro. How's it going, man?
In fact, this is true, Raul. Steve is the man. Absolutely. What are your thoughts on this cover?
I don't dislike it. That area up there, so much of the title is just taken away by that top. Yes, that top part. I would have liked a little bit more, even if it was just the sky in the background, I think.
Sure.
I might have liked a little bit more. I do like that all the characters are presented there, and they're forward facing. I do like that, and it's not that I dislike the cover. I actually like this cover a lot. But in a moment and when it's appropriate for me to decide, You
Go
know,
ahead. We can segue into
okay.
that already. Yeah.
So here's the deal. If there were posters of both of these and I could only get one, which one am I going to get? I think by default, and JP makes a good point here. The Justice League trade dress is a winner, but the character
It's
image
so
is
good.
Okay, that's very valid.
I totally agree.
That's very valid. And it's not because, as most people would think, I'm a Wonder Woman fan, Wonder Woman collector, and she's on the Justice League poster. Sure, I like that. But I think I would go for the Justice League poster if I only could choose one between the covers.
Well, and it's funny that you use that as your barometer because I do have a poster of that. And it used to be in the background of my videos when I first started doing YouTube in the man corner in my living room. It was Chinatown poster on one side, Avengers poster on the other side. Were the Avengers the second string? For me, I am absolutely picking the Avengers cover as my preference between the two. And were I to get the poster, I've already got it. And that's the way I would go. If you were arguing the Starro cover, it's a totally different discussion for me. And I would probably go with the Starro cover, which might be a better comparison as far as first appearances of those teams. But we're going to discuss those Brave and the Bold issues. But really, we're comparing tonight issue number 1s.
Yeah. I will say for you in the chat, you don't have to tell us now, but keep in mind between these two covers which one you would have picked. Because at the end, kind of when we've gone through a different amount of categories, we're going to ask for your feedback on who the true winner was and add that to our picks as well.
Yeah. Feel free to chime in on your thoughts. You guys are doing a great job. I appreciate hearing from all of you.
Oh, that's a good idea, Ruben. But actually, to my knowledge, they haven't made a poster of the Justice League one. So,
and my LCS just happened to have that. They had the Avengers 4 and the Avengers 1. And they were like giving them away, and I just took the Avengers 1.
Yeah. Adding to the roll call is Ben Compton. Hello to you.
What's up, Ben?
JP saying Avengers is going to win this one, but if Brave and the Bold. Okay.
That's tough, right?
So there's some fans of the Brave and the Bold. So,
sure.
Jackson Roy Kirk likes the Avengers. So that's okay. I can be all by myself.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the story for these two books. Take us through Justice League of America 1.
Okay. So Justice League of America 1, we're starting out essentially, and we're not going to go page by page so you guys know. It's going to be different than Omni X-Men. It's going to be different than Fanboys Live and the Retro Review. It's just essentially going to be a recap of kind of what's going on in the story. So our story is starting out with Barry Allen out on a drive, and there's this strange blue glow coming from a house, so he goes to check it out. And that's where he sees these two people with green hair. Incidentally, if we had a category, or maybe we even should have a category called That Didn't Age Well, because they have green hair, he instantly says, they must be aliens. Maybe today, not so much, you would say.
Polaris is very upset somewhere.
But this time around, he is accurate. The green-haired belong to Jason R. and Sarana, and they're from this planet called Kalanor, and it's from another dimension. And so Barry turns into the Flash to find out that these two have escaped Kalanor because it's under the rule of Despero, and this is his first appearance. He would become an iconic JLA villain further down the issues. And he's this ruler who has these access to these super weapons. So Jason R. and Sarana have come to Earth. They want to build this device which would absorb Kalanor's weapon power source. So the Flash is like, yeah, I'm going to call my friends together, the Justice League, and we're going to have a meeting to try to help you to help stop Despero. Then, wouldn't you know it, Sarana's kidnapped by Despero, who's made his way to this dimension. And Flash rushes to the JLA headquarters to find the rest of the team is already under Despero's power.
Which is the cover bit that you're seeing.
Yeah.
Where the villain has them all at the table, and he's basically manipulating Flash into playing a game as a way of eliminating the Justice League.
Yeah, so Flash has to use these cards to move the character pieces. And each chess piece represents a different Justice League member. You know, if they land on a free square, the member is set free, and Despero will leave Earth and give up his conquest. But if the pieces land on a disaster square, Flash would have to leave Despero alone to complete his conquest of Kellinor.
Yep.
So, of course, Despero is rigging the game. So Flash is losing because Despero is rigging this game, and the Justice League members are disappearing into these different dimensions. And while each JLA member is transported to a different world, you know, Flash loses out, and he's forced to leave in Jason R's Dimensional Traveler. This is all overheard by Snapper Carr, who Despero doesn't know he's there. Snapper Carr has become an honorary member of the Justice League after his events in exactly White Tiger, exactly. After the events of the Brave and the Bold issue 28, and for his help on that, they made him an honorary.
Snapper Carr is a very interesting character. Now that I had never heard of him. Never, you know, it was my first time discovering this character when I opened my JLA Volume 1 omnibus and dove into the Brave and the Bold issues. That was where he first appeared, and I got a sense of him. And it was kind of interesting to see him continue on now here in Justice League 1. I don't know the extent that this character will be a part of this story, but it does seem to be like he's pivotal and will be something potentially ongoing. Much the same way you get your Amanda Sefton in the X-Men, those X-Men fans, those fun characters that are adjacent to the superheroes, but seem to be woven through their storylines.
So kind of the feeling that I got was Snapper.
Sorry, did we say hi to Kenneth? I'm sorry, I might have missed that.
Adding to the roll call, Kenneth Bird. Hello
What's going on, Kenneth?
Awesome. So Snapper essentially is something that you'll see frequently. And what's that? Something you'll see frequently. Adding to the roll call, George, D-Ron Comics. Awesome. So Snapper is someone like, if you watch the Super Friends cartoons, you have Wendy and Marvin originally, and then you have the Wonder Twins. The deal with Snapper is he is just a normal 1960s kid. I will say that eventually down the road, something happens to Snapper that doesn't make him comfortable. And I mean, I'm talking very far down the road.
Okay.
Like several years for us doing shows if we stay in chronological order. Something will happen with Snapper which will make him feel uncomfortable to come back to even a JLA reunion.
Ooh. I will say,
I'll just throw that out.
I did a smidgen of research just to learn his first appearance, which was Brave and the Bold 28, the first Justice League appearance. Disappointed still. The Key Collector app does not mention him. Apparently he's not on the label for the issue.
Should be.
He's not on the slab label as first appearance of Snapper Carr, but yeah. Snapper was Rick Jones before Rick Jones.
That's a very good point. That's
very fair.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He even has the little belt with the logo that beeps when Flash pushes the button to call the Justice League. Yeah.
So if they're being called for a meeting, he's being called to go and be there as well. He's expected to be there.
Yeah.
So now we're kind of delving in, and a big theme of these JLA books is everyone divide into teams, and then you'll have like a chapter focusing on 2 or 3 heroes together with their assignment of the mission.
Correct.
Here at this point, we have Wonder Woman, and she's with Superman, and they're in this world with these...
I'm going to say dinosaurs.
They're dinosaurs, yeah. These creatures resembling prehistoric Earth dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of them trying to get rid of that.
They're basically
in the problem that they're in.
Yeah, they're in that prehistoric era. There's tar pits, there's dinosaurs, and they're working together to just sort of survive the dimension that the villain Despero sent the 2 of them to.
Yeah, and eventually Superman's able to grab a hold of Wonder Woman, and there was some problem with him being able just to instantly fly off the planet.
Yeah.
And with Superman, you know, you say, well, you really hadn't talked about him a whole lot until now. We really didn't see him because off panel, he was already eliminated and sent to this world.
This is, other than Clark Kent getting the signal, this is really the only other time we've seen him at this point in the book.
Yeah. So then we move on to another chapter. And in this one, we have Green Lantern and Aquaman. They're on an aquatic planet. And they are trying to save this aquatic planet from this big super weapon. and they end up befriending some
Mer people.
mer people, I guess, the
Sure.
population from this planet, and they end up borrowing a glass submarine from them, which is able to allow them to escape from this planet.
Yes. Which for me, Despero, just a note, if you don't mind a note.
Yeah.
If you're going to transport Justice League members to distant dimensions in an effort to kill them, why send Aquaman to the water planet?
I thought the exact same thing.
That's just a bad call all around. The dude's name is Aquaman.
Yeah.
Why isn't he landing in the desert? Think of it, a big yellowy sand desert, and you've hosed both of those guys.
Yeah, exactly. So
you gave him the out.
Well, actually,
I do love that the villain's plan in the ocean world is to basically use a giant magnifying glass to to evaporate the water. So he's got this yellow sort of lens that is evaporating the ocean water to try to kill Aquaman. And Aquaman's solution is to convince all of the octopi down in the ocean to crawl up onto the lens and squirt out their oil to cover the lens so that then Green Lantern can manipulate it. I was laughing out loud through that whole bit.
Smart though.
Very funny. Very clever.
But when you were saying, yeah, why not put him on a desert? I thought, why not put Aquaman with Martian Manhunter, put him on the desert with fire? They're both in trouble. You know?
Deep weeds.
Yeah.
Yep. But sorry, let's we can go on to the next pair.
Yeah. So Martian Manhunter and Batman. Same thing. Batman off panel has already been transported to this world. So
the best we have Batman get the call and he's like, I'm in the middle of chasing some criminals. I'll be there when I get there.
Yeah, yep. So they're on another planet and they want to save this planet from being destroyed because there's this missile headed towards the planet's nearby star. And, Martian Manhunter's he's huffing and puffing, but he can't blow this tower down that seems to be firing. The tower's firing out the shots, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So instead, what he decides to do is just burrow underneath it.
Yeah.
And that kind of gets the mission done.
Yeah.
A little bit. Of course, there's some fire because you have to immobilize him.
You got to threaten the Martian Manhunter. Meanwhile, Batman has taken a plane and he's piloting this spaceship sort of around to try to stop the missile.
Yeah. But eventually they do get off the planet and they all reunite. And of course, they're determined now. They're going to track down and stop Despero. So that takes us to a new chapter, kind of in the final portion of this story, where we're checking in on Despero. And we have Jason R. He has completed an energy absorber weapon that he wants to use against Despero. But remember, his female accomplice or his girlfriend or whoever, she's she's been kidnapped. She's still under Despero's control.
Yep.
Despero shows up and then uses his power to essentially immobilize Jason R.
Yeah.
And all hope seems to be lost. And then what happens? You have to remember, we have that hidden ace in the hole, Snapper. So Snapper, who was, as I mentioned, was unseen before and jumped into the ship. And he comes out of the ship from Despero's dimensional transporter because he stowed away in it. And he uses this energy absorber on Despero, which stops him.
Yeah.
Then the Justice League arrives shortly after to see that the villain has been captured and defeated by their honorary member. Jason R. thanks the Justice League for their help, and the JLA congratulates Snapper because he did the case. And Jason R. Takes his girlfriend and Serana, and they start to head home with Despero in tow, knowing that they're free. And
I will say, the only question mark I have is that comment you made that he goes off with Sarah. Sarah does not reappear. Serana.
That's true. She does. I guess that's implied.
It's implied that she's okay, but they never show us her back again, reunited with her husband.
Despero kind of grabs her and then
It was all
That's
just kind of
it.
like, we don't have room for that. The
Yeah,
story's got to wrap up.
it's implied. So Flash says that, Snapper's kind of like, why didn't Despero's hypnotic eye affect me? That's the big question. Why didn't it? Well, Flash has the answer to that. And in this panel, he shares that answer there.
Yeah.
And he says, well, just as I was immune to Despero's mental domination because I had absorbed the blue glow of Jason R's dimensional traveler, you, Snapper, were immune because you had absorbed the blue glow when you were inside Despero's traveler.
Yeah.
And Snapper says, crazy, man. Crazy.
He's got this hipster like vibe going.
Because he says his way of showing how he feels is by snapping, and that's why
it's like he's a beatnik poet.
Yeah. That's why he's called Snapper. So dig it.
Yeah, man. There's always snapping happening.
Yeah, there's snapping.
He snaps happening 4 times on that final page.
He does.
But yeah, apparently the spaceships that these characters use have a blue energy to them, and if you're in that light for long enough, you absorb some of it, and it can protect you from all the things Despero is doing.
So
that's the key.
So be Despero for just a moment on this at this portion on this last page.
Right.
You've just been defeated not by one of the big 7.
No.
You've been defeated by the one with no powers. Maybe that's why Despero looks like that. He looks like someone left his cake out in the rain.
It's fair.
That's a metaphor.
So there you go. That's Justice League of America issue number 1.
Yeah.
And then I'll jump into Avengers issue 1.
Sure.
Avengers issue 1 starts us off with Loki, and he is ruminating in Asgard because he has basically been kept captive in previous stories fighting Thor, and he's going to try to use his abilities as the trickster god to manipulate characters on Earth in an attempt to get the revenge he wants to have against Thor. His big plan, after he looks in on his brother as the mild-mannered Dr. Donald Blake, if those that don't remember this era when he was like the doctor with a cane and the funny short sleeve shirts, was the alter ego of the mighty Thor. And he sees that, what I need is somebody that I can get to fight Thor for me. I'm going to get the Hulk, and I'm going to manipulate the Hulk. And so you get this moment where he decides, I'm going to make everybody mad at the Hulk by causing a train wreck and blaming it on the Hulk. And even though Hulk sort of like saves the train in the end, it looked enough like he was causing the accident that this sort of starts the media and everybody asking questions about how dangerous is the Hulk. And word spreads pretty quick. Thor finds out, and he's like, okay, I got to go and investigate this. Hank and Janet, the Wasp and Ant-Man, they decide they need to get involved with this too. And despite, I'm just going to say it right now, the incredibly blatant sexism of the writing around Janet it's intense. I struggle with any time Hank and Janet are on the page. It is exhausting to read for me. It's painful. But we'll get back to that at some point, I'm sure. We see Iron Man. He gets his suit on. He's like, I need to get over there. I need to stop the Hulk. And even the Teen Brigade, a group of children with ham radios, are trying to spread the word. And they send Rick Jones is leading them. They send a signal to the FF, and the FF are like, we can't, we're busy, send some other people, we can't do this right now.
Didn't Loki deflect that transmission?
He did, but it eventually gets through.
Yeah, eventually gets to them, but the other heroes get it first.
By then, the other heroes have shown up, and they're talking to Rick Jones and his squad, and you've got Janet, Hank, Tony, and Thor, and they are all ready to go and try to figure out what's going on here. Thor is talking and then looks out the window and sees Hulk. He's like, oh, hey, there's the guy. We were just looking. We're talking about him. He's right there. Turns out it's just another Loki illusion. Thor throws his hammer and it goes right through Hulk, and he starts to realize, okay, it's my brother pulling tricks again. He calls the Rainbow Bridge and rushes back to Asgard, right? But the heroes are still trying to figure out on Earth, like, where is Hulk? Cut to
where would he be?
The most logical place you'd find him, in the circus as a clown juggling animals. That's where he is. That's where the Hulk is. He's juggling elephants, horses, and a seal
Oh my.
in the circus as a clown.
Oh my.
He's even like lifting the entire lion tamer cage, and all kinds of craziness is going on. Ant-Man and the Wasp show up, and they're like, this guy's clearly dangerous. He's a performer in the circus. That's a problem. They burrow under with the ants, and they try to crush him under the ground. Of course, Hulk doesn't like that. He just starts getting upset, fighting back, and now you've got our heroes battling one another. Ant-Man and the Wasp and Iron Man all kind of battling him, trying to capture him in different ways.
And the audience all thinking this is part of the show.
Yeah, the circus audience are loving it. They're not sure what's going on.
Because they believe him not to be the Hulk. No one ever says, oh, that's the Hulk.
No.
Which is interesting because he seems to be world famous everywhere else, except
and he's still
at
green
the circus. And he
enormous.
Looks just like himself.
He's just got a clown face.
Yeah.
And a costume.
Yeah, so that's a little interesting. So the patrons think that this is part of the show and that he is like a robot. You won't believe that he's actually human.
Yeah. So he escapes the circus by flying off with the tent. The whole tent comes with him. Iron Man catches up to him and tries to stop him. Meanwhile, Thor goes to Dad to complain about his brother. This guy's driving me crazy. And Dad's like, well, you can go deal with him. I'm not a good father. You're going to go have to solve your brother's problem. So he sails down to this realm where Loki's hiding. Yeah, he's got the purple pants underneath the clown costume, John. So it's layered, this outfit. I don't know where they got a clown costume that big, but they have one. Loki tries to trap Thor in a few different ways, but of course, he can't. He can't trap Thor. He can't stop him. Thor shows up and basically, I could get into some of the details. There's storms, volcanoes, tombs of ice, weird, creepy
tornado.
Yellow troll monsters. Yeah. All of it in illusions where he can't find which is his real brother. And then he, spins some incredible blasts of air to knock all the illusions away till there's one brother left. And then basically attaches the hammer to his brother's back, which is one of my favorite moments. It's just like, nope, I'm going to use the hammer to control you now. Yes. Correct. I mean, that's fair. Hulk tries to bounce. Meanwhile, Hulk is still bounding away from Iron Man. Iron Man pops in on some pilots. He's like, hey, have you seen a Hulk anywhere? And they're like, yeah, he went that way. Okay, great. Thank you so much. He's going to hide in the automobile factory and throw tires and all kinds of things at Iron Man, battle among the gears and machinery. And it's a great battle sequence, I think, for the Silver Age between these two, metal thrown at people, walls breaking down, lots of that kind of stuff. Finally, Loki and Thor show up. Loki tries to resume control of the situation and use his powers to manipulate these characters, but it doesn't end up working because Janet and and Hank have basically created a trap door underneath where he's standing, and they sucker him into this chamber where they capture him and can basically turn him over to Thor.
Okay, this is where it got weird for me, okay?
Oh, this is where, okay.
Well, I mean, this is another part where it got weird for me, okay? So he's placed, essentially in this chamber thing, okay?
Correct.
And it's a lead-lined tank, according to the text.
That they use to carry radioactive waste from the atomic test dumps.
And where are they going to dump it at?
Apparently in the ocean.
In the ocean.
Yes. I
was like, once again, if we had a category, maybe we will after the show called Can't Do That Nowadays. We have, the purple hair. If you have green hair, you're an alien.
Yeah.
Here, we're going to dump that atomic waste into the ocean.
Right where it belongs.
And I mean, aren't they a little worried that, because what do they say? They gave a time limit here. They say, Loki cannot remain radioactive for more than a few minutes, after which I shall open the tank and return him to where he belongs. Really?
I don't know. They're weakening him, I guess. So in the end, they were all like, wow, we worked as a team really well together. Even Hulk, who was a good clown, I guess. And they decide, let's be a team. And then Hulk quotes Mr. T, which is probably before Mr. T ever existed.
Yep.
He says, I pity the guy who tries to beat us, or best. Beat us. Yes. He says, I pity the guy.
Yes.
Just like Mr. T. And that's it. That's the end. Yeah. They're standing together like you showed there at the end.
I'll say hello to new additions to the roll call, Seeking Superman. I know Glenn had a great time at Heroes Con this past weekend. Thanks for
very jealous.
Yeah. And Mark Barone's here too. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Thanks for stopping by.
We've just finished breaking down the stories for Justice League of America 1 and Avengers 1. And now we're going to debate which story we preferred, what we liked about these stories, what was working or not working. Would you like to go first, Ryan? Let's hear your thoughts on these two stories.
Okay. Both stories had pluses and minuses, but that's to be expected. And I read a lot of Silver Age, probably much more Silver Age, and I have much more Silver Age reading under my belt than probably you do.
Way more. So, I guarantee it.
So I'm used to some of this stuff. To me, there's some different levels when it comes to Silver Age. Like, is this written for a baby? Or is this written for the times, Oh, John. Oh, John, you're about 212, 211
I'll get there
early.
in just a second, John, because you ain't wrong. You ain't wrong.
Hey, I'm not saying replace it. I'm not saying upgrade. I'm just saying, as Linda Lavin would say, there's a new girl in town.
Facts.
So, anyway,
because I jokingly
I don't know what to say about these. I mean, the Avengers story, and I don't want to be all negative. The Avengers story, yes, is full of sexism.
I mean, Hank is painful to read. Mm-hmm. But I jokingly say with my friend Whitewell Comics that Silver Age sucks because we're teasing the fact that sometimes these books are very difficult to read. The goal of these books were for a very different age of reader than modern books. Yeah. And I think sometimes it can get really like bogged down in the simplicity of what they're trying to do, right?
But on the flip side too, if you stop and think about the target demographic at that time, who was never thought that they would grow up and stick with these books.
No. Yeah.
Some of these stories probably were just the concept of having all these characters in one book was huge, probably
revolutionary
for some of these people.
Yeah.
For I could both pay a dime or 12 cents and get all these characters in one book. Yeah. That's huge.
Totally. Yeah.
I don't know what to say about the stories.
Do you want me to go first?
You go first, okay. and I'll piggyback off of it.
I will say I was impressed by how much I enjoyed the Justice League book. I thought it had a lot of good twists to it. I had never read it before. This was my first time. I read the Brave and the Bold issues preceding it just to have that context and know people like Snapper. Mm-hmm. And then the issue had a good lead in where you see all the members in the different places. It had an exciting, there's a contest, and it was very much like Harry Potter, and they're playing wizard's chess to complete the next phase. I enjoyed all of that. I enjoyed the concept of that. I did not like how stupid it made the Flash seem, that he couldn't realize he was being conned as every single member of his team was being eliminated.
Every move he made was bad.
The game was clearly rigged, and yet he wasn't figuring out any solution to just like, wait, do I have to play this guy's game? Can't I just run around in circles and smack this guy? Like, why do I have to let him send my friends to another dimension? He willingly continues to play the game and gets the entire team banished. Like, I was waiting for him to just work it out, and he doesn't work it out.
No, he doesn't do that.
But I enjoyed all the far-flung dimensions that they ended up going to. In fact, my biggest complaint is just Flash in the chess game. The chess game was my least favorite part as far as like how it ended. And then
I did like that part though, because it's so weird. It's just
it is weird. And I like the concept of the game. I don't like how it plays out, and I don't like how it ends.
That's fair. The
concept is interesting, and I think the execution didn't work. Just like I think the same of the ending, where it's really rushed. That 5th chapter is like 2 pages. It goes really fast. And I don't think you get enough time really enjoying and espousing, understanding kind of like what they're doing. It's just like, nope, Snapper saves the day. We're moving on. story.
Which I think you're going to see in a lot of these. That's
is it okay?
Yeah,
that's kind of the
that's
function.
how I kind of remember it. So
on the other side, sorry, you want to share some? Oh, Bobby's in the chat. What's up, Bobby?
Hey, Bobby's in the roll call.
Bobby's already making his comments. I love it. On the Avengers side, I loved all the cameos, the Rick Jones, the Fantastic Four, all the ways the characters came together. The plot is quite ridiculous in Silver Age manner. The time spent in Asgard feels kind of disjointed, like it doesn't necessarily fit. The art is actually very interesting, but the time there just seems kind of odd. The use of Odin is kind of weird and doesn't really work for me, but it's typical Odin where he's like, I'm the dad, but I can't help you in any way. I'm not useful.
So to tie into something you just said too, that I think is really important, and keep in mind, this is 3 years later than the Justice League, but overall, I think Marvel was much better in interweaving their characters because, like I said, there's FF mentions and a few little cameos from the FF, even though it's not their book. It's not, it's like, no, they're establishing this is all in the same universe if you didn't know, or I like that. And I think that, the term branding didn't exist back then, but that is what they were doing.
And Stan was well aware of that, I think.
Yeah,
that was
absolutely, he was
allowing new readers to meet all these characters and connect across books, to be interested in other teams and characters. Yep. So it works, yeah. I do think the ending for both books was really, really rushed. Yeah, and that part I struggled with a little bit. They just seem like they want to wrap up the challenge, even though they set it up. I don't necessarily love the way Hulk is used. I think he's kind of goofy. He's not very menacing. He's not even very big. The way Kirby drew him was always kind of truncated.
Why would he decide to go into the circus?
I mean, that's you could write a whole book about that.
He talks about that humans are always against Hulk, and then why would you? I don't understand that part.
I hate people. I'm going to be an entertainer.
Exactly. Although I've met some, I swear didn't like.
So for me, if I'm voting, it's kind of like JP is saying. I think the plot and story worked better in JLA, and if I'm grading story alone, that's the better read for me. I do like some things that they executed well in the Avengers book, but it just worked better for me in the JLA book.
I'll tell you what the JLA book I think has over the Avengers book.
Yeah, go ahead.
They work them better for the most part as a team together instead of splitting them off and this chapter you two do this chapter you two do this, this chapter you two do that, which is the formula that they'll do. I think that, granted, Thor's a little bit disjointed from that team.
Right.
But outside of that, I think it feels more like a unit.
Sure.
Even though they haven't decided to be an official team until the last panel. So.
And I do agree, Mail. I totally agree that that's kind of what you can see here is some of the inspiration, which is kind of what we really wanted to do with this series. It's discussing these two Silver Age books. Here's the issue ones. Next time we do this, we'll do the 2 issue 2s, just to kind of see the influences across a 3-year gap in time and how they executed the launch of these now staples of their companies, these staple team books. So I think it's interesting just to see how these issue ones sort of in a vacuum compare to one another.
Yeah.
So I'm picking JLA. What are you picking for this?
I'm picking JLA.
In the story?
JLA, yeah, for the story. For the story part of it.
So we agree on this one.
Yeah, we do agree on this one. So yeah, it's just I'm going with that. Just there were more things to see that even though that some of them didn't make sense, they made more sense than the stuff that didn't make sense in the Avengers book. Like Hulk juggling and being in the circus, and no one, even though he's world famous, no one who attended the circus went, "Oh, that's the Hulk. That's not a robot."
And I loved and we can get into the art because that's what we're going to discuss next. I love the way they utilize the visual worlds that they go to. So the book, and this is where I'm probably going to sound like a broken record. The art is, as much as I love Jack Kirby, I think the art is better in the JLA book. They're not because the artist was more talented, but because they had a better visual story to tell. You talk
Okay, that's
about
fair.
these foreign planets, these unusual creatures, these dinosaurs. It was really a cornucopia of visual choices to be made here, and it worked really well, panel to panel, page to page. I really enjoyed the visuals that they laid out from this book. So even the beginning stuff, if we can get into favorite panels in a little bit, but the art side of the JLA book was stronger. Even with my love for Kirby, it was better.
So a few things about the Avengers book, and not these are not necessarily criticisms; they're just observations. So early on, when Loki is peeking in to see what's going on, we see these eyes here. See in these panels that I'm showing, we got the different eyes.
Yeah.
You know what that reminds me of so much? Which would have been in 1960s as well, although this would have predated it. Do you remember the animated intro to the TV show I Dream of Jeannie?
I don't, but
So
okay.
Barbara Eden, it was a live action show. Barbara Eden, and Larry Hagman. The intro was animated, but at the end, she had eyes popping out of her bottle, animated, that looked just like these eyes.
Interesting.
And I was like, well, that's interesting.
Right.
Something else that I thought was interesting too, on the little cameo of the Fantastic Four. This is not the typical hairdo that I remember Kirby drawing for Sue. Usually Kirby had a typical hairdo for a blonde, and it looks like the hairdo like Kamandi had.
Okay.
In the DC world.
That sort of sweeping little...
Sue Storm and Kamandi and any other blonde had that same hairdo. That's not her typical hairdo. So I thought
she had the short bob there.
Yeah. Yeah. And this would have been 2 years after FF issue #1. Yeah, interesting. But there's some really good art. Like, even as weird as it is, juggling all of that, that's really good.
I loved that panel, and you talk about a panel that made me just laugh like that. Mm-hmm. That I turned the page and saw the Hulk clown, and I just laughed. I thought it was really funny. So it certainly elicited a response, probably exactly like they wanted it to get from me, and I think that really worked. Sadly, no, John, he doesn't go back to the circus. Although I would have paid for a mini series covering him joining and then coming back later to apologize and rebuild the tent. I would have absolutely bought that miniseries.
Okay, I have to ask this too. In this, and I'm just focusing on the Avengers right now. I'll probably switch over to JLA in a moment.
Yeah.
But in this panel, does this look like someone to you? And you'll know instantly who I'm talking about, I think.
So I thought they were doing a Scarlet Witch thing here.
Thank you.
I thought, oh, are they precursoring the fact that she's going to join the team here in this volume? Like what's going on?
I thought Scarlet Witch, that's Wanda. Totally. But it's not. It's not.
No, it's just somebody coming. That's how you dress to go to the circus, Ryan.
Yes, apparently so.
So I highlighted this in our comments, but when I was commenting, I love this Iron Man versus Hulk battle sequence. This page, I really enjoyed seeing them pulling apart this auto factory and just kind of like trashing pieces and hucking them at each other. It reminded me of the Hulk v Thor battle from the first Avengers film. I got some vibes of the two of them kind of like throwing down. And of course, later we get that in Ultron, the film too. I thought this was a really great use of paneling. The action worked really well. The drawings of the gold suit and the green Hulk, I thought worked really, really well. Those were really great. And I love that opening panel, that spread page of Loki's face. I mean, I'm down for it.
That's really good too.
I like that face, and I like all the little like side character profiles they give you.
Essentially, their roll call.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some great stuff.
You want to pick a favorite panel from this issue, and then we'll move over and talk about Justice.
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go?
Yeah, you can go first. Let's do the Avengers one first, and then we'll go over and talk about Justice League art.
I'm going to pick an odd one, but I love this hand grabbing Thor's foot.
Really? That's interesting.
I love it. There's something super creepy about all these tricks Loki is trying to pull on Thor. And in this moment, he calls forth this kind of troll creature who later comes out and does a whole like typical kind of fight. But that hand coming up out of the ground gave me some real like Night of the Living Dead vibes.
Or Carrie, the end of the movie Carrie.
And I just dig it. I thought what a great moment to capture. and you don't get it. You get the little bit of the shadows of the two of them, the silhouettes, and then boom, that foot. And I love it.
That's cool.
I love it.
So for my favorite panel, it was like a no-brainer. When I flipped and I saw the page, I went, that's my favorite panel. I know it's my favorite panel in this issue. With
the
all
myriad
the
of Lokis.
Yeah, all the different Lokis, and Thor's got to figure out which one is it. But something about that panel, I just thought, that's pretty cool.
And again, as visually stunning as that sequence is with Thor and Asgard, it detracts from the team book a little too much for me, and that kind of irked me a little bit. It felt like the sequence in Ultron where Thor goes off to go ruminate on what he's understanding about. It just felt like an unnecessary aside, and it was a lot of pages, despite really great artwork for it. It just seemed like an unnecessary aside.
So we'll jump over and talk about the artwork a little bit on the Justice League book.
Let's do it. Yeah. Did you have a favorite panel or anything you want to jump into there?
Before I get to my favorite, I just wanted to highlight a little bit some other things. One thing that I liked, and I'm probably going to be jumping a little bit all over on this book, I thought this is a very interesting page where they're showing Martian, Manhunter, and Batman in the future, and how all those numbers are being called out too.
Yeah.
And the pink sky back there. I thought that's an interesting panel depiction, I thought.
I will say I don't love that costume that John's rocking there. The boots are too big. It looks like his pants have fallen down.
I get that sometimes.
I was like, John, pull your pants up, buddy.
So the Green Lantern, his pose here, that's kind of interesting.
Yes. And I think they've always done a great job in the Silver Age drawing him flying in these kind of wild poses. The one they do on at the beginning when we're seeing where he is when he gets the call, I really like that, where he's like zooming in front of the dam and rescuing people there. He's got the same kind of like fun swinging sideways pose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as
in general, the early pages, I even sent you I love the way they draw. There he is. The Flash, the faces are really well drawn. Yeah. And these early pages really worked for me, getting the detail, all the detail in the background. I loved these early drawings. And I'm not even certain who the artist was.
I believe Mike Sekowsky. I believe it's Mike Sekowsky and then Murphy Anderson on the inks.
All right.
Because that was the original creative team.
Okay. Did you want to do your favorite?
Yeah, I'll do my favorite panel. Probably no surprise. It's going to be a Wonder Woman one.
Mine is a Wonder Woman too.
The one that I like was this one at the top.
Ooh, okay. I'm glad you picked a different one from me.
I always have something about the sandal era where she was wearing those sandals instead of boots. Sure.
Yeah.
The lasso should technically be a little bit higher to be attached to her hip, but something with the dinosaur in the back, and it's like a half page. It takes up more room than a typical panel.
I love it.
Something that when I turned, I went, "Oh, that's kind of cool. I kind of like that."
Yeah, I turned that page. I was like, "Where is she?" That is a fantastic,
colorful
page
too.
Turn. Very colorful.
So, which one did you like?
Again, those early pages really struck me. I'm doing the one where she gets the call. She's standing on the wing of the invisible jet, although they call it the mechanical jet, I think. Yeah. And she is throwing her lasso down towards the Statue of Liberty.
Yes, because she doesn't want it to get hit by lightning.
Yes. I just love the perspective of it from above her plane, down through the plane, all the way down to the Statue of Liberty below, the lasso, the signal being sent to her tiara. Really
that's cool.
A great panel and really cool. So I absolutely loved that one.
Yeah. And so we had some good art to choose from both issues.
And I'm picking JLA for the art on this one. I love Kirby, but it just works. There's so much more detail. I feel like it's so much richer. The backgrounds are so much more stark and interesting. The color work is so much more vibrant. And again, page to page, there's a lot of shock and awe. Dinosaurs and floods and octopi and spaceships and aliens, and it's just a lot of visual spectacle.
Flathead Hulk always throws me off a little bit. So I forget how long he's going to be Flathead Hulk.
It's a while.
But
We're going to get a lot
okay.
of him in this, although he's
He always
not
throws me
really
off a little
around. Yeah, he's not really around in the team for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. All right.
So we've done cover.
Yep.
We've done story.
Yep.
We've done art. For me, at least, JLA is winning, but we have one more interesting category.
Yeah, it's most valuable player. And we're going to pick an MVP from both teams, and then out of the two of them, and if you guys want to chime in a little bit too on this would be awesome. We're going to whittle down. Hopefully we can come to a consensus on, out of the two nominees, who the true MVP is.
Yeah. And we didn't discuss this in advance.
No,
I don't know who he picked from his book. From the JLA book. I don't know who he picked from the Avengers book. And we're going to see if we agree.
Let's start with the JLA since we're still on that side. I'm not even going to ask you who you think I picked. I'm just going to tell you who I picked, okay? You would be wrong.
I picked Snapper because I'll tell you right now.
Because he won, that's why you picked. Because he saved the day.
Because everybody else fails. Except Snapper shows up and saves everybody.
No, I was reading this and I said Snapper would be the easy choice to pick for the MVP, but that's not who I'm picking. The Flash.
Okay, I'm walking off the show. I quit. I'm quitting right now. The Flash is so useless in this dang book. I hated the Flash. Ugh.
The Flash is the only one. The Flash is the one who found out that there was a problem.
Sure.
That the aliens were there. He's like, this is a problem with Despero. I'm going to get my friends. We're going to help you. He offers. Okay. He's got the compassion. Sure, he should have been smart enough to figure out that this entire game was rigged against him. Should have been.
And he keeps playing until all of the Justice League is.
Well, yeah, he kind of does, but
okay, and
you can't have everything in a human being.
And that's it.
But at the end, But at the end, he's able to explain why Snapper wasn't affected by Despero's eye beam. Because of being because he knew that, in that blue wave saved him from being mind controlled, and Snapper was inside Despero's dimensional device. Yeah. So he knew his scientific knowledge makes him the MVP, although he was still dumb enough not to know that he was.
For me, that's kind of like saying that the color announcer on the sports game is the best MVP because he's able to break down how Snapper won the game.
I like my pick for the Flash. Adding to the roll call is Signature King. How you doing? By the way, Signature King, Comic Food 2014, and myself retro reviewed those first 3 Brave and the Bold comic books this past weekend on Fanboys Live in the Retro Review, which is archived on my YouTube channel.
So here's what I'm going to ask, and I don't know that you need to answer it, but it's my assumption. And maybe I'll just make a statement.
Make a statement.
I've never read these JLA books before. Okay. I've now read 3 Brave and the Bolds. I've read JLA 1. I'm noticing a Snapper trend, a pattern. Mm-hmm. And it's possible, because I've never read them, it's easier to pick Snapper as the victor. And if I had read all of this before, I may look back at it and say, well, he's always the victor. You should pick somebody else. And that might be why it's easier for you to look beyond him. Me, the first time reader, I'm reading it and I'm like, the JLA would be hosed right now if Snapper wasn't involved.
But Snapper wasn't in the story that much.
He's not.
He hides. And then he comes out at the last minute to save the day.
And does everything that they need to do. Yeah.
But to me, the Flash put in all the groundwork.
Oh, I totally disagree with that. He's able to analyze at the end why Snapper won, but he does zero groundwork. He notices there's a problem. He calls the Justice League, and then he gets them all trapped in another dimension.
You are focusing too much on that chess game.
It's the cover.
Well, it is the cover. I can't help that.
All right. So then let's jump over to the Avengers.
Okay.
I went first this last time. I snapped before you said your name. So who did you pick as your most valuable player there?
Ant-Man.
Oh, I'm really walking off this show. You picked Hank?
Ant-Man.
Oh my
Well, not because he said sexist stuff, not
Okay,
because
good.
of that.
I would hope
That's not why I picked him. I picked him because it was his ants that were able to locate the Hulk through the transmission. And that made him important in the team, that if you didn't have someone who could communicate with someone who was able to find the Hulk, that was important. It was also him, wasn't it, that got Loki essentially contaminated him. And that's why I picked him. Essentially, kind of, he did save the day, I thought, in the long run.
All right. I'm going to go with the easy answer like I did with Snapper. I think it's Thor. I think it's Thor number one, because he's at the core of all of what's going on. He figures out very quickly what's going on. He travels all the way to Asgard to get the real villain, brings him all the way back to Earth to confront so that the heroes can confront him, and then they're able to lock him up as a team. If he doesn't do any of this, the heroes are still fighting Hulk on Earth.
Okay. If it wasn't for Thor, they wouldn't have had this problem.
I mean, fair. No, I mean, he still would. Yeah, I mean, he would have to be on Asgard.
Loki's revenge on Thor that's caused this entire issue to happen. And that was my logic. And I'm like, absolutely, he is not the MVP for me. Absolutely not. Like, he was the first one I ruled out.
Wow. And he was, I'm going to struggle to ever pick Hank Pym for anything except, guy I want to kick off this team first.
So already we're at an interesting stalemate, because we should have already picked between our conversations and yielded down to one of our two being the JLA, and then one of our two being the Avengers, and then putting those two together.
Yep.
So
there's no consensus here.
Yeah.
How about this?
Okay.
Who do you think between your two, and I'll think between my two, which book has a better MVP? What if we try that?
Probably the Avengers.
I agree. So there we go.
Now we have Avengers.
To pick, now we got to pick between Hank and Thor, and maybe we leave that to the chat, because they're going to be the ones that do the big vote here in a little bit.
Yeah, which is coming up soon. So
So at least we agreed the MVPs are stronger in the Avengers book, which leaves me tied. I've got 2 picks. I picked 2 things for JLA and 2 things for Avengers overall. And that puts me, at least I've got cover and MVP, but story and art for Justice League.
Thor should have taken care of business with these brother issues. Loki don't need to be taking out these problems on the entire world. He really messed with the Hulk for no reason at all. Hulk was really not doing anything.
I know. Hulk was really
he kind of gets the shaft in this issue, as he very obviously does, which reminds me of that 70s TV show. At the end, they played that sad piano music, and then I'm a little lasso at home who just finished happily watching Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, and then this show comes on at the end, that sad piano music as he walks away because he can't have any friends, and I'm boo-hooing.
Yep. Wonder Woman never makes you cry.
No, well, just I couldn't meet her.
Tears of joy.
But eventually, later in life, I met her.
So, for me, like, if I'm looking at a comic and I've got a cover and an MVP I love over here, but art and story I love over here, the art and story wins for me. It's the thing that wins out. But this is the point where I guess we're going to open it to the chat, right? What we need from you is to let us know which book you now feel is the better book. This is not which is more valuable. We're not talking about speculation. We're not talking about which has the better first appearances, which is the better key. What's the better issue number 1? And you can let us know. You can vote now in our chat and help us decide which book is the winner. And
I still think we have to come up with an MVP while they're thinking about who's going to win this overall.
I mean, well, clearly we're down between Hank and Thor.
It's Ant-Man or Thor.
It's Ant-Man or Thor.
Thor has the most screen time in the issue.
Truly.
Definitely. Absolutely. This is more a Thor-centric story in several levels.
Truly.
So I'm willing to yield back and give this to Thor.
You're giving it to us? Okay.
All right. I'm willing to do that.
And admittedly, obviously, Hank pulls the snapper move at the end and does capture Loki.
right? It does do that. But we also see Thor capture Loki a little bit earlier. So we know Thor can do it as well. It's pretty tricky.
Now, this is the type of things I like to see in my roll call.
Jedi,
Thank you, Jedi Fars. Thank you. That's exactly what I want to see.
That's hilarious. For me,
so okay, we're gonna go for Thor, right, as our MVP.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I can live with that.
Which for me means I'm split still 2 JLA, 2 Avengers in our 4 topics.
Yeah, I'm JLA.
But art and story are more important to me than cover and an MVP.
Yeah.
So those things outbalance the book for me, and JLA gets my vote as the better book of these first 2.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that's not a shock to folks who are like, John's the Marvel guy.
But you know what, JP makes.
I just read these books with an open mind and really wanted to see the story.
Makes a good point, even though this show's not about keys or value or anything like that.
Sure.
But this is a classic JLA villain.
Yeah.
Whose groundwork gets set in that first issue. So.
But I mean, you could argue that. I mean, it's not a Loki first appearance, but Loki is the villain that's so paramount that he even made it to the movie, the first Avengers movie. They were basically recreating elements of it.
At all.
Yeah, yeah. No Despero in a Justice League movie yet.
Yeah.
I love both, but I'm leaning to Marvel, so I go Avengers. There it is, Bobby. Vote your heart, buddy. And that's the point of the show. We appreciate you guys who are hanging with us in the chat. We really want to get together, once a month or whatever, and go through these Silver Age classics and discuss the story, the art, the characters, and what it is that makes one maybe a preferable read to the other.
And if you guys if you're able to read along with us, and trust me, we know that these are expensive books and we don't expect you to have them in your collection, but they are on the apps. And probably if you did a Google search, I'm not telling you to do that, but probably you could find a free version to read as well. You might get some interesting advertisements that go with that, but you'll probably be able to find it. But you have a month to look into that. We know that we're getting our feet wet with tonight's show as well, and we know that you are too.
And we also know there's a bunch of facsimiles out there, collected editions, hardcovers, and I've got the Omnis. The Omnis are in print and out there as well. If you've got those on your shelf and you haven't cracked them open, join us, crack them open, bust them out, and take a look and get into it with us, because we're going to be doing this on my channel. We'll be back for issue 2 next month. Yep.
So, and both these Omnis have been out for a while, so the prices on some online sites have dropped. So you can probably find some good deals. You found a great deal on like your Justice League Omni.
I snuck a great deal on that Justice League. The Avengers I got from my LCS, but the Justice League.
Absolutely, you needed to buy both of them. I would expect nonetheless.
Bad call. Bad call.
We got to be twinnies.
All right, last few seconds. If you haven't voted, comment in the chat so we know we got your vote counted, because this is our first inaugural vote.
Number 1 issue was the winner tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, these teams essentially fought the battle decades ago, but tonight right. It's been a long wait for the reveal here.
And Ryan, thank you for doing this, man, because I know you and I have been talking about these books a ton. I am a Silver Age novice. I've only read a handful of Silver Age. I had read this Avengers issue before, but for me, like, getting the time to kind of get into and really absorb these universes again is kind of a lot of fun. So I appreciate you doing this with me.
Oh, thank you for wanting to do a show with me. I mean, I know that you have a much big and fuller calendar than I have, and
it's summertime. It's the perfect time to invite me to do stuff.
Awesome. So, and you were a little patient with me. Like, we thought about launching last month too, and I was just kind of like, I got a couple things that just need that are coming in my home life that I just need to get that shifted to first, and then I think would be
life found a way. Don't worry, we're here now.
Yeah.
So it looks to me like a pretty much a solid win for JLA. Bobby was our one Marvel voter, and the rest of the squad is saying this is a JLA victory tonight.
Okay. Score 1 for JLA. 1 in the record book. So that's awesome. There's a link to John's YouTube channel in the description for this video. If you're not subbed to him, please do so. John, what do you got coming up?
I've got my normal Saturday morning show this coming Saturday. I'll be unboxing some things. I gave Ryan a sneak preview before we went live, some things that I got in the mail. And then Friday night before the Saturday, so what, 2 days from now, I'm on the Gary B, the Casual Comic Guys YouTube channel with Cliff. We're doing a discussion around 10 comic book stories that changed comic books. The disrespect.
It's an inside joke with John and Cliff.
To Cliff.
So,
yes. Yeah. So Cliff and I culled down all of our favorite stories and basically picked 8 between the two of us that we felt like changed comics, had a huge impact. And then each of us picked one that we didn't tell the other person about, and we'll share it all live on Casual Comic Guys YouTube channel Friday night.
And Glenn giving us a good suggestion, something to think about as well, too.
The modern equivalent, right?
Yeah, the modern equivalent. So
for sure. Good call, sir.
At this point with our show, we are open to all feedback.
Yeah, appreciate all of you hanging with us. I hope everybody leaves a bunch of comments here for Ryan and I to discuss and debate. And then we'll see you back hopefully soon, a few weeks on my channel.
I'll just say on my channel, for what's going on, I had a back issue of the week YouTube short from a future Justice League of America member, the Red Tornado. That dropped on Monday. That's done quite well. It's 400 plus views on that already.
So
nice. You can check that out. Yesterday, I dropped a comic book editions video that is a JLA and Avengers haul. So some back issues that I've added in. And JLA is a huge collecting goal for me. And if you didn't know, I'm in year 1 of a 3-year plan to complete the entire run. So there's a little bit of an update for that. And then the Avengers, I added some issues in. So I have a huge consecutive run of Avengers comic books now, like a huge 100+ run now. And you can see the issues that I needed to fill that in to be able to have that 100+ run. So that video is already on my channel.
Congrats.
We'll have Fanboys Live thank you. We'll have Fanboys Live and the Retro Review coming up on Sunday night, the greatest DC comic show on YouTube. Signature King will be there. Comic Food 2814 will be there, and we want you to be there. So. And what's Bobby saying here? Hey, it was far out, man. He's giving it several snaps. I love it.
Appreciate you, Bobby.
We appreciate all of you who joined us in our inaugural episode. You never forget your first. And, oh, nice. Now, see, I have those. If we merged our collection, boom, we'd be done.
Complete.
Yeah, that's cool. Get it done. So thank you for joining us for our inaugural episode. Thank you, John, again, for wanting to collaborate, and I'm excited where this will bring us in the future as well. Thank you for joining us. If you watched on the rewind, thank you as well for making it all the way to the end. We hope you have a happy, healthy, and successful remainder of your week and weekend. And forthcoming, we look forward to next month's show, which will be on John's channel. Until then, these Avengers are assembling, and we're heading out. Catch you later. Take care. Good night. Thank you, Glenn, for saying it's a great